Okay, today I'm going to show you how to sketch your house from the very beginning, and I'm going to add in how to focus in on details. But first of all, yesterday I saw a lot of people starting their sketches using a ruler, and I want to encourage you not to use a ruler, and I will tell you why. When you're using a ruler, you might get some straight lines and it might look halfway decent. But what if you put something in the wrong place? Like, what if this post needs to move over a little bit? Then that line's wrong, that line's wrong, that line's wrong. All of the lines that are connecting to it might be wrong when you realize something's out of proportion. For example, I don't know if their door goes here or here, but if their door goes here, this post is definitely too close. Right there. So that might be easy to move over. It doesn't really affect anything else. But look at the size of this end of the house. That looks way too skinny. So if this is going to get moved over or widened, then this line right here is going to be affected, and the whole roof line is also going to be affected. It's much, much harder to make changes when your ruler lines are set in stone, especially after you get really far into your drawing. So my suggestion to you is use a pencil, use your free hand, and sketch lightly. If you sketch lightly, it's going to be easy to make changes, and you're going to be able to get the whole shape of your house. That's the other thing that I want you to remember, is that you need to get the whole shape of your house before you do details. Yesterday, I also saw some kids who were focusing in on details before they had the whole shape of their house, and then their house didn't fit on their paper because they didn't plan it out first. So what I want you to do is think of the big shapes, okay? Let me see if I can get this all on the screen at the same time. It's gonna be kind of hard because I gotta draw right here. But let's start with this part of the house, okay? This is one of the easier houses, but you can do this with any house. It's definitely got a triangle kind of roof. It's definitely got a big rectangle right here. There's gonna be some windows right there. Do you see how lightly I'm sketching? Super light, because then I can move these lines real easily with an eraser later. This part of the house right here, this is something else you should pay close attention to. This part of the house is closer to us. So the bottom is a little lower than this part of the house. Look at this part of the house is way up here someplace because, you know, the porch is there, but also because it's back farther. So make sure when you're doing your sketch that you pay attention to those kinds of things. Where does the bottom of your house come? And you need to make allowances for those differences in height so that it looks realistic when you finish it. So I'm just gonna kind of sketch what I think is this front porch. I think it's probably that seems like the right proportion to me. It looks like the roof here stops before the top of the roof there, so the top of the roof comes down lower than that. But then if I draw that line, you can see this looks wider than what I have it. So that means that I must have to make this part a little taller. This is what I'm talking about with rulers. If I had drawn that line with a ruler, this would be really hard to do. So I'm gonna erase my original line. By the way, it's also a good idea to have a big eraser. If you don't have a big eraser yet, you're gonna need one for this project because we're gonna do a lot of erasing. So I would suggest going out and getting one tonight if possible. Okay, so there's my new roof line. This is going to be my new roof line over here. Get rid of that. See how easy that is to change when I'm just sketching lightly. Okay, now let's look at the proportions and see if they're right. I still think this is I think I don't have it quite as big as it is over there. So I think this has to be down a little bit farther. I don't want to make it too big because I actually want most of my details to be in the door and the window and stuff. So I think even though that might not be quite as wide as it actually is in the photo, it's good enough. I think I can work with that. So now I can define my lines just a little bit more. And I can look for the extra lines that we see in this house. For example, this roof has 2 lines, right? There's this kind of like a rectangle right there. So make sure you're looking at the details that way too, of all of the little things that you can do to make your house look more real, which is just adding extra lines in there where you need them. This roof kind of goes back right there. Because we're standing straight in front of it, it looks like a vertical line. It's actually going towards a vanishing point, but we're not gonna do vanishing points with this drawing. But it goes straight down like that, and then you can see how it attaches to the roof behind it there. So I'm just gonna draw exactly what I see. Trust the shapes that you see and trust the direction. Some of my students wanna make things up because they think, well, that should be an angle because it's going back into a vanishing point. But you know, the vanishing point just happens to be straight down from there. So just look at what you see. Just draw exactly what you see. Don't think too much about it, because if you think it too much, then you're gonna rely on the logic part of your brain instead of your eyes. Your eyes can see the picture, like make it look exactly like the picture. Measure things up to other things. Okay, now I see another problem. My width of this part of the house is too skinny. Look at how skinny mine looks compared to that one. So that means this part of the roof has got to be a little flatter. And this line's got to go out farther. So this peak of the roof is going to be over here a little bit more. And this part of the house is going to be over here a little bit more. That seems like a better proportion. Also, what was happening for me is my line is looking a little crooked right there. So I'm gonna turn my paper like this, because the natural movement of my hand for drawing a straight line is this direction. So if I turn my paper, I can get a straighter line because my hand naturally wants to be straight when I hold it in this position. So that helps me straighten up the line of my house. Same thing down here. I'm just gonna hold my hand this way so I can get a nice straight line. This is how you can avoid the pitfalls of rulers. Now I'm gonna do the same thing for the roof up here, because I need that to be a nice straight line as well. Does that look good? Sort of. Good enough. It's a haunted house, right? It's okay for it to not be perfect. All right. Now, on this side, all we see is just kind of like a dark triangle. It kind of goes like that. I don't really understand why it looks like that, but I'm not gonna worry about it. That's the way it looks. I'm gonna draw exactly what I see. Now, let's focus in on some of the details of this porch. We don't really see the angle. It actually probably would go around this corner and go back at an angle, but we don't see that because it's straight in front of us. So all we see are two lines coming out. So we want to draw it exactly the way we see it. It's going to draw my first line coming across and then my second line coming across. That's the porch basically right there. Gonna erase my first sketchy line right there, and that's my porch. I could actually make a step there. I don't really see a step in the picture. It looks like there's some grass and stuff in the way, but I'm not gonna worry about it. I could make a step. I'll show you that in a minute. What I do notice, and what you should notice too, is that this porch keeps going past. There is an angled line right there where it connects back up to the house. It's kind of hard to notice, but this is the corner of the house, and the porch kind of does that. Because it's gonna go past the house there, obviously. You're gonna see it that way. We can't see any post over there, but logic tells me that there should be a post that holds up the roof. Like this roof probably comes down like that. We can't see it because of the tree, and it probably does that. And there's probably a post right there behind that tree that we can't see. That's gonna make the most sense because it's gonna hold up that roof. So I'm gonna go ahead and draw it the way I'm pretty sure it is. If you have something similar in your picture and you're not sure of what to do because you can't see it, you can come and ask me, and I will give you my advice. But see how that looks realistic now, because that's the way it probably is. And then there is a post halfway over, and then we have a door, which is kind of over here. Looks like the door goes nearly all the way up to the top of that, what we see as the front edge of the porch roof. Okay, so that's gonna be my door. I told you I'd add a step. This is how you're gonna add a step. Just draw a rectangle that's a little lower. Okay, so lower than the bottom of your porch. So you erase the bottom of your porch right there where your step's gonna be. And a little wider than your door. Just draw a rectangle right there. And that will give you the sense that there's a step there. Later on we can do all the shrubbery, okay? You don't need to do that right now. But I am gonna change something about this house. I don't like the fact there's only one window downstairs. I'm gonna actually put, well, I could either make a big window or I could do double windows. I think I'm gonna do double windows because I kind of like the fact that there's room here to do a window. And then there's room over here. Maybe I'll make this one a little bigger because I think that might look good. And you can do the same thing with the windows on your house. You don't have to make the windows on your house exactly the same as what you see. They can be in different places. So over here, we have windows downstairs. We have 2 downstairs and 2 upstairs. So I just need some rectangles. I'm gonna try my best to make these rectangles the same size as each other. Notice how I keep turning my hand so that I can make nice straight lines. This way is easy to make vertical lines, and then this way is easier to make horizontal lines. That will help you get straighter lines. And then upstairs, we need some windows too. So there's that one. Now, if I really wanted to be fancy, I could add like a fancy, like one of those dormer windows over here, but I think this is good enough for haunting. I think this will work. I can put a lot of scary stuff in those windows, right? And so there is the basic sketch of my house. That's how you would start this drawing.